Yo, 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 hello, and welcome to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 92, the place where we talk about all things sports, performance, fitness, mindset, nutrition, anything and everything involved in improving your game. We are going to be talking about it. I am going to be joined today by Ben Bacon of Your Peak Performance, and we're going to be talking all things football, fitness, training. For those of you on my American side, means soccer. All right, we'll clear that up before we start. So, regular football is the topic for today. Anyway, I'm not going to waste too much time or take too much time on this because we are both pushed for time. So, we're just going to get it on straight away. Ben, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on. I'm glad we finally managed to sit down and chat to each other. I know we've been trying to arrange this since like last year at some point.
Yeah.
So, thanks for your time. Just for the people that don't know you, might not know you, just give yourself a brief intro and tell them about yourself.
Yeah. So, Ben, I started a company called Your Peak Performance a few years ago. I've been in the industry of fitness for 12 years now. I'm 33 years of age, so I started it fairly young. My main role is I help football players, some athletes as well, but predominantly football players, try and reach their potential, whether that be at somebody kicking a ball around at really low grassroots level that just wants to feel fit, whether it be to somebody who is semi-pro trying to go pro. So no matter what the level is, I've worked with all the ranges sort of down to like the highest levels like League One, the English League One. So yeah, I've worked with an abundance of different people, all with different goals, but mainly looking to a combination of feel their best while they're playing, but also look and feel good in themselves too. And I always do that by covering a few subjects. The main ones being the training regime they follow, the nutrition, and how they recover. And in general, just looking at their lifestyle rather than saying, here's a training plan, try that. I would like to look at all the factors that will contribute to them being in the best shape possible.
Yeah, I think that's important to do as well because otherwise you're just kind of throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
You're still playing yourself as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still playing. I'm still playing. I'm at step 5 at the moment in the UK pyramid. It's the level that I've always really been at. So I was at step 4 for a little bit for a year or two, but I'm still playing at the sort of the highest level I've played at always, which is something that I think that a lot of people sort of in their 30s don't do. So it's something that I'm determined to keep going, despite maybe through my 20s not living quite the life of, say, somebody who played football. I've come to transition a bit more from my training style to being like, right, I don't care about my fitness or football, just cared about looking good, to kind of now actually, I can still try and look good and play football and perform and continue to play for hopefully as long as I can, really.
So is that how you got into coaching in the first place? Is that why you started coaching?
Yeah, so yes and no. I mean, I started as kind of in your generic gym with the general population, but then I was playing football and I was starting to get more invested in that side of things and learning a little bit more about your strength and conditioning side. Um, there was a time back in the day where I thought it was like, right, you just have to run to get fit for football. And then as I started looking into it more, all of a sudden my eyes were completely open to a whole new world, where actually, yeah, running may help a little bit with your football, and it will help, of course, because it's a running game. But there's so many more beneficial things that you can do to help with your game and how you're feeling physically.
So is that pretty much just being like an ongoing like, because I find that with my own training, I've basically similar to yourself, like you learn things, you know things to start off with, you make a best guess, you do it, and then the older you get, the more experience you get, the more you learn about how to train, the more you realize how stupid you were on the front side of
Oh,
things when you were just starting off.
100%. Yeah, it's mad. It's 100% because as well. Like sometimes as a young lad, sometimes you can be quite arrogant. You can think, I know it all. I know what to do. I know what to do. But I think once you switch that mindset, you become such a better coach because you understand that you're always learning, no matter how old you are and how experienced you are, you'll always learn something. And I find that even if I maybe speak to someone with a load less experience than I am, they might say something that I kind of knew, but it reignited it, and I was like, do you know what? I should focus on that a bit more. So you can always like learn and always gain that experience more. I say.
Yeah. What was some of the biggest mistakes either the biggest mistakes that you made or the biggest mistakes you see at the minute that people could learn from just like straight away?
In terms of kind of football side of things and the way that people are training and playing, so a lot of the things is the run side of things. So I always touch on it, and I know some people are like, no, it helps, but it is the your steady duration 5K, 10K runs. Don't get me wrong, if you're playing football and you're doing 5Ks compared to not doing 5Ks, it helps. It's more beneficial than not doing anything. However, it's a complete different aspect of what you're going to use in the game. Like you never really in a game want to run at that pace that you run at a 5K with. So in a game, in a football, it's constantly sprint, changing directions, turning, lateral movements, deceleration, acceleration. And obviously that's a lot of fast twitch fibers. Yes, your slow twitch fibers as well, but your 5Ks and that are your slow twitch fibers. So it's never going to benefit you on the pitch. Don't get me wrong, so it will benefit you on the pitch, but not to the ability that it could do. So like if you're practicing, if someone had the option for me to say, right, I'm going to do one fitness session a week, and it's going to either be a 5K or I'm going to do a box-to-box sprint with 30 seconds rest, maybe 12 times, then the box-to-box sprint gives you so much more fitness for your game and so many more benefits for your game than what the 5K could. And what you also will probably find is your 5K improves with doing those anyway. So that's one of the main mistakes I see being made.
What I think, sorry, just to kind of quick there, like one of the benefits that I found of doing that, because we like always did them all the time to either finish training or just add an extra little bit of a stimulus, especially for the guys who possibly haven't played that week or have been on the bench or just haven't had as much game time. Like the running fitness takes more of a priority because they haven't got the distance in the legs. And one of the, I suppose, like obviously you've got the energy systems effect where you're traveling at a higher speed than you would run a 5K. Then you've got that bit of a rest period where you get that bouts of intermittent high intensity work in a game, but also the mental side of traveling up and down the pitch. I think like that gets into a lot of people's heads, especially late on in a game. If you finished a training session and then you're going to go and do 30 seconds work, 30 seconds rest of just going box to box to box, like the mental side of just running up and down, up and down, up and down. I think definitely I would not neglect that.
No, definitely. It's like, I mean, you hear it quite a lot where people don't play for a while and they're going out on runs to keep fit, and then they play and they come back and they go, oh, I'm absolutely blowing. It's completely different. It's completely different. Like, I've been keeping fit. And match fitness, obviously, you can't replicate it, but you can get close to it with the kind of training you do. And I think that if you've been running at that consistent one pace for a 5 or 10K, and that's what your kind of body's used to, then all of a sudden you go into a game and someone knocks the ball past you and you've got to turn and accelerate to your max velocity. And all of a sudden your body, your legs are screaming at you like, fucking hell, I've not had to do this for a while. Or you've had to shift direction and decelerate and stuff, and your body isn't used to it. That 5K, you're in this slow pottering straight line. So yeah, that's the main kind of thing that it baffles me that people still haven't kind of worked out. But yeah, a couple other points is, I guess, with that side of things is training. Like you look at a footballer's training routine and they'll say, right, what are you doing? Say, right, I'm doing push Monday, pull Tuesday. And straight away I'll go, a bodybuilder's routine then. And I'm like, legs in there? And they'll often say, no, not really. Any sprints working on there? No, not really. But I just want to get stronger on the pitch, and I want to get a lot more powerful. And I'm saying, well, the legs is a lot where the power comes from for a start. You're practicing your sprints. Are going to have a massive effect and a bigger impact on your game. So that's something that you see quite a lot. And like you can still work your upper body. I'm quite a big fan of a bit of a hybrid. So say like still do some hypertrophy and train like your biceps and stuff, because you want to feel good as well at the end of the day. But you can't have a shift. You've got to shift your program to be able to balance the two. You can't just have it right. I want to do push pull every week, or chest day and that. So yeah, that's another common one.
Yeah. So fitness, football specific sprinting, box to box sprints instead of 5Ks, instead of bodybuilding splits. Like actually, I would essentially what you're saying there is prioritize more sprinting and lower leg work as well
Sure.
to get that into your routine. So I think obviously with regards to sprinting, like that's probably one of the best things that you can do for preventing hamstring injuries.
Mm-hmm.
That, like when you're traveling at high velocity, that's when it's
Yeah.
likely to occur. So if you've got a good amount of exposure to high speed running, which is
Yeah.
where like obviously a lot of difference can actually come into a game. If you're a mile an hour quicker than the person you're up against, like in terms of
Yeah.
winning one-on-one matchups, like you've got a massive advantage.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You played last night as well, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it today. I'm struggling sitting here, my back and everything. I'm achy. But yeah, I played.
So how do you like for obviously people that like obviously in football, like you'll get that week in, week out where you're training a couple of times a week, playing Tuesday, maybe playing Thursday, playing Saturday. So 2-3 games a week sometimes, especially towards the end of the season, particularly up north, up my neck of the woods, when it's
Yeah.
been raining
Bit
and
wetter.
fucking hammered it down and it's shit.
Yeah.
The games get backed up. How do you structure your week in that sense from uh, the day before a match day preparation, then the actual match day, and then the day following a game? What's your routine and advice
Sure.
on that kind of thing so that people can maximize their progress and speed up their recovery?
Yeah. So it unfortunately gets harder as you get older. And that's something you have to accept. And not every week will look the same. So it's important to understand that. There may be some weeks where you do have to miss a session. You have to listen to your body. Me last night was pretty much my first 90 in a while, due to a couple injuries. So that was tough, and my body is feeling it today. And I know today there's no point me going and doing anything with any intensity anyway. What I will probably do is try to do a bit of a recovery stretch out, a bit of very low intensity, maybe cycle. But how I manage it, so for me, this is massive because so many people get it so wrong in between games. And there's you've got the phase at the moment of like, right, we'll get jumping in an ice bath, and then they're sleeping 6 hours, and their nutrition is absolutely shit. They're not hitting anywhere near the amount of kind of calories they need to recover, the protein, your carbohydrates or anything. Yet they're jumping in a freezing cold ice bath and hoping that's going to make miracles happen. So for me, it's a number of things. It's you've got to get the sleep in as much as you can. I understand people, kids, jobs, it's harder, but you've got to try and prioritize getting a quality sleep. Your nutrition, like a lot of lads, and it's part of why they play, but they'll have a beer, they'll go and drink beers after the game, and they'll have a night out and get like broken sleep that night. Drinking alcohol will lower your testosterone anyway. So they're doing the worst things to recover. Whereas someone my age, I understand now that I have to get my sleep, I have to eat well, get my nutrition right. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a saint like it. I will Saturdays often have a takeaway after football, and sometimes I'll go out and have a night out. But in between, I've got to try and be as smart as possible. And it doesn't mean living a complete saint life, but it's finding that balance between it. And then also with your workouts, knowing what to do and when. It's very hard at the moment as well. We've got them down south. The weather's been shit here too. But there's many Tuesday, Saturday games, and I find that obviously is very difficult. And trying to manage my clients and myself around that schedule isn't always the easiest. And it's sometimes, you have to like doctor your program and take the intensity down on certain weeks. So sometimes I actually say to people, look, the best day for you to do legs, unfortunately, is going to have to be a Wednesday or the day after a game, but I just get them to take the intensity right down, so they're still working the legs, but it's taken right down, and or even like say it's the Thursday they do it with the intensity again down, so they're not fatigued for the game Saturday, because it's that fine line. You don't want to be fatigued for your games, but you could then easily say, okay, well, I'll never do legs because of that reason, and then you're never going to feel the benefits of what the leg training could be doing for you in the sprint training. So it's finding that balance to say, right, yes, this is going to benefit me and not hinder my game too much. And maybe it does hinder your game 10%, but if you look at the bigger picture, you're going to be a much, much better athlete in the long run, quicker, fitter, stronger. Yeah. So
I think the important thing for people to get in their own head there is that, because I think it might have been Tim Grover's book, Relentless, where he was talking about training Michael Jordan, and he would train him like obviously NBA playoffs, like playing on a consistent basis, like day after day after day. And he would essentially play the game and then sleep, eat, back in the gym the next morning. It'd be doing a heavy leg session or it'd be doing a power based session. Yeah. And I said to a lot of my guys, like, that it's not about how much you do, and it's not about feeling sore. Like if you're training for speed and power, you shouldn't necessarily be tired at the end of the session, because the entirety of that session needs to be about quality over quantity. So you're doing far less reps, far less mileage, but with the intensity through the roof to essentially train the nervous system to speed up. So I think I've got quite a lot of my guys who are, I'll get them to, like, similar to yourself, where you'll sort of do it kind of post match or the next day, but you really drop the volume down and ramp the intensity up. And I'll have them doing that. Like I introduced it to someone on, say like, right, this is what you're going to do the day before a game.
Yeah.
Go into the gym. We're going to do this power circuit. You're going to do 3, maybe 5 rounds. You have short rest in between each one, and you're going to leave before you even get a sweat on. Well, let's say before you get a sweat on, before you get tired, when things start to slow down, that's where you're done. Just go home. And understand you might not feel like you've done much. You might not feel like you've done anything useful, because it's a completely different style of training to that bodybuilding, style of push, pulling, train a muscle until it's sore and tired. So you have to add it in somewhere, don't you?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. For me as well, like you do as you get older, sometimes have to train less, recover more. And that's something you have to accept, and you have to, no matter what age you are, you should always, I always preach train smart, not hard. That doesn't mean you don't train hard. You do train hard, but at the right times. And that's something that in your younger years, I think we all mess up and get wrong, because it's let's go, go, go. I see people, I often come across and have consultation calls with people that are training. I train 5 days a week and have football 3 days a week. And I'm just thinking, I don't know what you're doing in those sessions, but it doesn't sound like this is an optimal plan for yourself. But then you delve into it a little bit more, and you break down what they're actually doing, and you're thinking, you're training probably twice as much volume as I would have you do, but for actually less reward. So it's just being smart with it, and understanding how to manage your schedule and your program, which a lot of people don't get.
Yeah. And then this leads on to the importance of actually investing in a coach, right?
Yeah. Massively. Yeah.
I just spoke with another coach who plays for the same team as me. He's an S&C coach as well, and we were talking about one of our guys who'd just gone off to play American football, play in the European League in Germany.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was training with me, and it's no coincidence that the best players that are moving on to the next level are the ones who all have coaches. Every single one of them. Like there isn't a single one who's done it purely off their own back, writing their own program, experimenting with stuff themselves. Like they've outsourced it to to an expert, someone that knows what they're doing, and they've paid the money for it, but they're reaping the rewards. Like, is that something you've seen a lot yourself as well?
It's something that I wish people understood more. And I get it that people don't want to spend money. Sometimes they think, is it worth it? What are they doing? And sometimes what you're doing is underestimated. And they think, oh, yeah, this is just, he's not really doing much. But they don't understand the thought behind it and the thought process behind the whole structure, and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And what you'll often find is that people will try and do their own thing. And you look at in a year's time what progress they've made, and it's nowhere near what they could make. And it's a short career, really, like your sports journey. You've got your young years where you're kind of still developing into your adult body, trying to get physical enough for the men's game. You've then got you've got to then, before you know it, your sort of 20s are passing by and things are starting to get harder. So getting yourself in a position, in the best position at your peak, as early as you kind of can, for me, is so important. So like the young lads that think, oh, I'll try and wing it for a few years, and then they've wasted 2-3 years, not really making any progress and staying at the same level because maybe they're physically and athletically not quite ready for it. But then you have other people who I've worked with that are young, and before you know it, they're like 19, 20, and they've played a number of games for the first team, and people think, oh, I can't believe they're still only 19, 20. And it's because they've been physically ready for that game early on. Whereas then you get other guys that are like 21, 22, and they've never quite physically reached that potential, and they've kind of ended up getting a bit overlooked in the game or stayed where they are. And it's just, you think to yourself, if you had invested in somebody who knew what they was doing back then, followed what they said, then where you'd be now would be a completely different person. And to be honest, like I say, I'm right now referring to a younger athlete, but I've had clients before. Had a lady named Emma, who's 37 now. She reached out to me about a year ago, and she always said, I don't really know what else I could do, like at this age, and what I could learn. I'm not sure, but I'm open to kind of finding out. Anyway, we're basically a year down the line, and I say she's getting older. She's 37. Naturally, you're going to slow down, feel worse. But she says to me, she's like, I feel better than I've ever felt. She's got her speed stats coming back, and her distance she covers from her GPS vest, and she's quicker than she's ever been at 37. And for somebody at 36 who invested in a coach, if you could do that, no matter what age you are, through your 20s, or if you're into your 30s, 40s, and you just want to keep playing, you still have probably a lot to learn that could help you either continue your journey, push you on at any point in your career, and have you feeling your best. But yeah, a lot of people don't see the benefits, I don't think, until they've actually been through it and done it.
Yeah, 100%. I see the exact same thing. I've had the exact same conversations with people where, like, you want the highest peak you can possibly get, but then you want to draw it out for as long as possible. And I think if you were to frame that question, someone like who's young and possibly thinking about getting a coach, thinking about doing the training, like, no, I just want to, see how I get on myself now. Just go, well, how are you going to feel when you're 2 or 3 years down the line and nothing's changed? You're in the same spot, you're in the same space, you've not physically progressed. How would you feel in that scenario? I think the answer you get would be, but it's a long time to have out of your career. If you think like the span of your career, maximum 20 years.
Yeah.
Really? Like,
and obviously your peak's definitely not 20 years either, is it? When you're playing it, you got probably 10 years if you're lucky, really. Like, a lot don't get that. A lot give up for whatever reason. Like, they fall out of love with the game, and a lot of the time people fall out of love with the game is because they're not being picked, and you start looking into a bit more detail, and it's like, are you playing the victim, and have you actually been putting in the work? Because I see it so often, and it's the ones that are often sulking. And again, this is a mistake I made in my youth. I'd think, oh, well, I should be playing, and maybe sometimes I should have. However, ask yourself, are you putting in enough work, and can you do more? But there's some guys that have natural ability, and they're probably going to move up the leagues anyway. So you might they might look back. So you said in like 2, 3 years time, and they haven't made it. Well, they actually might have made it higher, and they go, well, look, I didn't need that coach. However, that's come down to their natural ability. If what they could do have had as a coach alongside them to get them physically alongside their natural ability to a point where it's even greater, then the results would have been even better. But it's sometimes, I suppose, it's hard to see if you've moved up and progressed. You're like, well, I'm doing all right on my own, but don't realise is what they could achieve.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, there's times where you finish training, you finish a training session, and then at the end of the night, there's always a couple of people hanging around who, they're on the fringe of the squad and they want to chat with the manager, and then you stand there and you have the conversation with them, and it's like, why am I not playing? And
Yeah,
like you say, they're essentially playing the victim. They feel like they should be the one involved, and there has not been over the hundreds of conversations that I've been part of in that specific contest. There's never been a situation where the player's gone away and the manager's turned around and he's gone, do you know what? He's fucking right. He's got a point, hasn't he? Like, he probably should be playing. Like, he's working harder than anyone else. Like, I don't know why I've not got him in the team. That never happens.
yeah.
It never.
Sometimes, like, as a player, you're right. Maybe you're saying I'm better than that person, and you are. But football's a game of opinions. And for me, there's no point sulking and just thinking, oh, I'm not enjoying it. Like, go out and work harder and prove yourself and come back. And I've worked with so many players that have done that, where they've been like fringe players and people have been going, oh, they're not good enough, or yeah, they're not fit enough, or whatever it may be. And I just say to them, don't get disheartened, use it as fuel. Go out there, work quietly behind closed doors, put the effort in, and then when your next opportunity comes, which will come, whether it be at that club with an injury or whatever, or if you end up moving to a new club, your chance will come, and be ready for it. Don't turn up to this new club and you're in a worse place than what you were before. Turn up and be like, I feel faster, I feel quicker, stronger. And then, the people that left you out, you can look back and say, well, look what I'm doing now. But a lot of the time it's that defeated mentality, victim one, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. Oh, I didn't get picked there. So yeah, you often get that.
It's easy to kind of pack it in and sandbag it at that point, then, isn't it? Because there's been times where I've said, like, look, you might be right, you might have a point. What do you need to do to change the manager's opinion? Like, what can you do? What can you affect? And
Yeah,
in this case, they go out and they put the work in, they train hard and smash it the week after. All you can then do is just go, I think he had a good session tonight, didn't he? And then you can start to change the perceptions there. But like you say, football's based, it's so opinion based, isn't it?
of course, yeah. A lot of managers respect that as well. If they see you working the extra, like if you got a player you've not been playing, and you see him just sulking, sitting around, or you say, right, this player, he's been putting in extra work, great attitude, I want to give him a chance. It's just natural to want to give someone that chance when you see they're putting in the work, as opposed to sulking and not doing anything extra. So I think, even just psychologically, like, it plays a massive part on the player and the manager's thought process.
Yeah. When it comes to kind of finding a blueprint or a template or a role model of someone to kind of emulate that does all the right things, who would you recommend that younger players look at and kind of model their behavior on? Who would be a useful person to look at?
It's probably an easy one, I think, that question. I think the football world, obviously, well, the easy answer is Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone knows he's lived the life. He'll quite happily say, water in front of the cameras. He's not afraid to say it. But then you have to look at others as well. James Milner, like what he's doing, still playing at his age, is exceptional. Another one, and I don't know much about his background and what he's done, but I see Ashley Young still playing the Premier League. I think he's nearly 40 now. And that kind of shocked me the other day. I thought, fair play to him. I remember him being written off 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And
they asked Wayne Rooney about it when it was the United Everton game, didn't they?
oh, did they?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
So Rooney was on. Was it BT? It was on. So Rooney was on like the studio team, and I think the commentator raised it at some point at the end of the first half, mentioning that Ashley Young was older than Wayne Rooney. And obviously Rooney's being retired and
Yeah,
management managed various clubs, and Ashley Young's still out there doing the work. So yeah,
yeah.
he's a great shout.
No, it's mad. I mean, last night, and I'll shout out my friend Magic, played behind me, a Brazilian guy, left back, 40 years old, and he made a comment the other day, and someone said to him, "Oh, you going out tonight before the game?" You know, and he said, "Brother, I'm 40 playing football still. It's no accident, you know," and it's so true. It's not an accident. You don't get to 40 still playing at a half decent level by chance. You know, you have to have looked after yourself somewhat, unless you're some genetic freak, but it's very unlikely to happen.
Absolutely. I think obviously three really good shouts there. I don't know if you might not know this, but up near us, I think he's playing for Skelmersdale, Pascal Chimbonda. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, I remember him, Tottenham
Right.
player.
So he's
Yeah.
still playing as a player manager for Skelmersdale. I don't know
Uh-huh.
how old he is now, but
Yeah.
fair play
Yeah,
to
I
him.
remember him. Yeah, I do remember him. Yeah, so I had a conversation with one of my clients that I trained a while ago, but he's not just a client, he was a close friend that I've known for 13 years. And I know he likes to drink, and he's got to sort of that age around 30 where he weren't much heavier, but he was a few kilos heavier. And the habits that he was having, his performance, it was showing. And I said to him, I made a statement. I said, like, look, listen, if you want to continue playing at the same level as you get older, something you have to change your lifestyle. You cannot continue the same patterns. And I did a post on him the other day, and this conversation was maybe about 3 years ago, where I was watching him play, and I thought he's slipping off it. He's never been quick, but he was, looking even more sort of like slow on the pitch. And I watch him now, and he made his like 200th appearance for the club the other day. He's still captain at that same team now. He's slimmer than he's ever been. He's trimmer than he's ever been. And he's no doubt changed his ways. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he still likes to drink here and there, but whatever he's doing now compared to what he was back then, he's had to change it to continue to be able to play at this level. So yeah, it is, and it's something to me. I personally think I would want to continue playing for as long as I can. Like the joy, there's games where you lose and it's shit, and you want to go home and you think, what's the fucking point? But if you win a game, and of that game of football, it depends on your position. I'll play up front normally, so for me it is natural striker mentality. Scoring goals makes me happy, but winning does as well. And when you win a game, there's no better feeling. And for people, I see some people jacking it in at 22, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, play for as long as you can. Like, there's no way I want to get to sort of like 40, 50 and go, well, I don't know why I stopped, or even 30. Why did I stop? I just keep playing, and it's such an enjoyable thing. And a lot of people speak about it, like how much it does for like even like the mental side of things, and it's true. So for me, looking after yourself enough to continue to play is so important.
How much of a role within that do you think that being able to control your physical shape plays? Because obviously, if you're running around the pitch carrying excess body fat, whether it's an extra 2 or 3%, because you mentioned there one of your players having lost a few kilos, and then all of a sudden looking sharper, faster,
Yeah.
more mobile around the pitch. How much of a difference and an impact does that make? Us not even just in terms of like short term immediate performance, but actual longevity as well.
It's huge. I mean, I say to people, like, you look at footballers, professional footballers, and how much body fat are they carrying, and it's low, and then don't get me wrong, as somebody playing maybe amateur, semi-pro, you don't have to look like that. You don't have to be at their level of fitness, but there's more often people further away from that than there is closer to that. And like, how many people you actually see in that kind of shape and condition, which isn't the hardest to get to, a bit of training smart and eating smart, really, and you can kind of look like that. But I mean, I've done it personally over the years. I've dropped a few kg and gained a few, and trying to run around and change direction and decelerate and carry your weight with a bit more on your body, it's a complete game changer. It's so much harder, and a lot of the time it's just like, and body fat is quite an easy thing to lose if you're smart with it. Body fat isn't hard to lose. You can in 7 weeks, doing it in a sensible manner, easily be 7 pounds down, possibly more. And then how you're going to feel on the pitch, even if you don't pair it with a correct training schedule and conditioning, even just the fat loss side of things and shifting a bit of weight, you can feel like a completely different player. And I've seen it, a lot of my clients are already trim and like they're just trying to work on faster, be more strong, be stronger, be more powerful. But some of the people I work with have got some few kilos, some 20 kilos too much body fat on them. And they're playing, they're still playing at this level that they're at. And I'm thinking, you have no idea what you could feel like on a football pitch. And it's not just, oh, I'm lost a bit of weight, I feel fitter. It's the way you change direction. It's someone knocks it past you, say you're a defender in the final third. It's, can you turn and make that ground up and stop a match-winning goal going in against you? Are you a forward and can you just burst past through and get onto the end of something that bit quicker? Or no matter the position, it's such a game changer when you shift a little bit of weight and a little bit of body fat. And like I say, you said longevity, obviously. I think as well, when you're carrying that extra weight, there's more risk of an injury always, no doubt. So that plays its part with that as well. But yeah, for me, and I've seen it so many times with players, and I've done it myself. I've cut a little bit, and the way that you can move around a pitch when you're not carrying your acceleration, your deceleration. I mean, I always say to people, imagine put a weighted vest on you and try and play the game like that and see how you find it. Try and turn, try and sprint, accelerate and then decelerate to make a tackle. It's so hard, and you see a lot of these lads like getting in and making fouls because they can't slow their bodies down. So yeah, it's such a, like I said, it's a pretty easy thing to do. I've had clients drop body fat thousands of times, over a 12 years period. And it's just knowing how to do it and following what you need to do. And it comes off fairly quick, before you know it, 8 weeks are gone, 6 months are gone, and you're a complete different person.
Yeah, do you know what? It's something that I want to say. I was just thinking about it then while you were saying it. Like, obviously, having that non-contractile mass weighing you down when every time you're trying to decelerate, your deceleration takes longer. Then when you're trying to accelerate, you don't accelerate as quick. So that takes longer and you don't hit as high a top speed because you're being slowed down. It's like running with a parachute, running with a weighted vest. Like,
100%.
so many ways that like, whether it's an extra kilo, an extra 2.25 pounds, or if you're an extra 2 kilos, an extra 5 pounds worth of weight, actually is a detriment to your performance. I'd love to see, I think it's probably something you should do actually, go and run a 40-meter sprint just as your regular self, and then go and put like a 5 kilo vest on. Let's say you want to lose 10 pounds to improve your performance. Just go and wear a 5 kilo vest, do the same sprint and compare your times.
100%.
And then do the same thing with like a 5-10-5 agility drill and change of direction drills and just compare the times of the two. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. It was a mad shout I heard the other day of a couple of players, and they said, talking about a lad who's probably got a couple of stone to lose, and he'd say so himself. And someone said, "Oh, I think the weight actually helps him in his game." And I was literally just baffled. I was like, "You have no idea." I saw what they're saying. They're saying, and they often say like, "Oh, they can hold people off the ball more." They kind of like bounce people around. It's effective. They use their weight well. Was one of the terms used. But I was just shocked. I was like, you have no idea. I was like, if he shifted that, he would be 10 times the player that he is right now. And like you said, just your deceleration, your acceleration, he would get to tackles quicker. He would be able to change direction quicker. He would burst past defenders or whatever it may be quicker. He would catch up with the attackers. So that shout kind of baffled me a bit the other day, but people generally believe it. I've seen people thinking, "Oh, I'm a target man up front. I'm going to carry extra weight because it helps." And yes, it may help in the element of people going to bounce off you more, but there's a lot bigger picture to the game than that, and you can be so much more beneficial without having that one asset of, "Oh, they bounce off of me."
I think there's also the misconception that the weight helps on the basis of, if you're bigger, you're stronger, and that's not necessarily true. Like that's a misnomer for a start. It's like, that is not true. And if you were to lose that extra 10, like, fat doesn't lift anything. Like, when you're just an extra 10 kilos heavier, that extra 10 kilos of fat mass does not contribute towards better squat performance. It doesn't
No.
contribute towards better deadlift performance. It doesn't contribute towards better sprint speed. So holding people up, it just means that you're wider to get around. And
Yeah.
if that's what you want, then I mean, there's plenty of people walking around on the street that you could have as a target man, but you know you fucking wouldn't because
Yeah.
it just doesn't
Yeah.
correlate or transfer
It's
across.
that kind of strength to body weight ratio, and obviously how you use it as well. So I've got one lad, he's in Scottish leagues, I think it's like tier 5 there and that, and he's absolutely shredded, and he's 70 kilos, 69 kilos, and he's since he's been with myself, he's never really gained any. He's not gained any weight. He actually lost a couple of kilos despite being on 3,000 calories, and now 3.5 he's up to. But his strength's gone through the roof, and I explained to him, I'm saying the strength that you've got now at the same body weight, and it's not all just strength training. Of course, we've got sprints, we've got plyometrics, we've got stability stuff. But I say to him, someone comes up shoulder to shoulder to you now, you've got so much greater stability and strength in your body than what you had before, and that's without gaining 5 kilo. You know, I could have easily put him on a bulk of a bodybuilder structure and said, here's 5 kilo more. Now people are going to be harder to push up. You're going to be harder to push off the ball. However, it's going to be detrimental to your speed, your agility, even the levels of fitness and how you feel over the game. So it's so important to get that right. And a lot of people mistake that. And back to earlier conversation about mistakes people make. And I've had people come to me before saying, well, I play football and I want to gain 5 kg. And I'm saying, okay, that's a mad shout. Why do you want to gain 5 kg? The goal should be, I want to gain more strength and stability, because no doubt the 5 kg is because they want to feel stronger on the ball. But a lot of the time, that's not the way to go. Develop that core, develop the stability, and develop the strength over your whole body. And then you'll be harder to push off the ball, but with all the other elements and that you have to your game.
So in season right now, let's say someone comes to you with a problem like they want to lose 10 pounds to improve their power to weight ratio, improve their ability to hold the ball, generally get leaner, travel up and down the pitch faster. And you can only work on the nutrition. I mean, like, this can't be a blanket prescription for everyone because we know that shit doesn't work. But if you were to go generically across the board, what would be your approach with someone to help them drop that 10 pounds in season?
So the first thing, obviously, to drop any weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. For those that know that, which means you've got to be burning off more than you're consuming. Well, the important thing in season is to not be too greatly in a deficit. And to be honest, anytime, even out of season, I wouldn't advise to be too greatly in a deficit, because it will be detrimental to your strength and your lifts and your performance. But in season, it's even more important, because what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be turning up to training in a game hugely underfueled, not enough calories in your system, lacking energy. So in season, I find that's kind of my structure. I would say is the same as every time. Lose it gradually. You know, there isn't a panic to do it. Also, look at what you're eating and consuming. Yes, calories are the most important thing, really, when it comes to obviously losing fat. But what you're putting in your body, say if you're on 2,000 calories, what are the 2,000 calories you're having? Are you having a pizza that's taking up 1,500 a day? And then, or are you having, some maybe like potatoes, some chicken, some fish, some vegetables, and you're using a lot of foods that are higher volume, that will no doubt give you more energy and make you feel better in that process whilst you're losing. Because whilst you're losing, you don't want to feel shit along the journey.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before, I think at the start of the podcast, where we were talking about just like the post-match routine. Like if you think after a game, if you're going to go and have, like, let's say it was 2 pints on average,
Yeah.
doing that, well, if you've got a game a week, doing it once a week, and then if you've got a game midweek as well, multiple times a week, that very quickly also adds up. So you might not necessarily even need to change anything too drastic, right? Like you could literally just change your post-match routine and
Yeah.
eat more nutritious foods in that sense, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's never. I would say I never encourage drastic changes, and I always like people to be in moderation. You know, if you like having a beer after the game, so be it. But let's not pair that then with a large Domino's. Might be that you have a Domino's, but it's a small Domino's. It might be that you have, instead of having 5 beers, you have 2 beers and a couple of gins. So small tweaks like that, so you can still enjoy your life. You don't lose all kind of what you enjoy and your sanity, but understanding what you do have to make some changes. And everyone's different, and this is why coaching is so important rather than a generic here's a nutrition plan or something, because everyone's got different habits. You've got some lads that are drinking 4 nights a week, some lads that are eating fast food most days. There may be a bigger problem. They're someone you're going to have to maybe spend a bit more time on. Others, it's smaller tweaks. So it's all got to be kind of bespoke to the individual.
Yeah. And like we mentioned before, like there are priorities. Like if you're not sleeping right and you're eating shit, you can have all the ice baths in the world that you want. It's not
Yeah,
going to speed up your recovery. Same thing of if you're immobile, not moving, struggle with your hips, low back pain, and you don't do any weight training in the gym, you don't do any stretching or mobility in your own time, but you're
yeah,
there with a massage gun in your hamstring.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
That's the other one. The massage guns. That's the kind of fad at the moment. You know, you're having a massage gun and an ice bath, and shit sleep and shit nutrition. You know, it's like one's going to probably give you 10% benefit, the other's going to give you like 90%.
yeah. You might as well shoot a BB gun at a freight train to slow it down.
Exactly.
One of the other, obviously, one of the other benefits that we've spoken there about power to weight ratio, being able to be at a light body weight where you can be fast, you can be adaptive, you can sprint, decelerate. Obviously, when it comes to plyometrics, having that improved power to weight ratio, that slightly lighter frame is also more useful there, isn't it? And we were talking about before this the importance of having that solid foundation in place, and I suppose that's part of the foundation to then being able to train and perform plyometrics effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So again, like a lot of people will, people see my Instagram and other people's Instagrams, and they see a lot of explosive plyometric movements, and they don't quite know how to perform them correctly, and they don't have the stability or the strength even to start. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them and you can't do them, but um, I'm seeing that people are focusing. All right, well, upper I'm going to train like normal, but then lower I want to be like more like more athletic. So I'm going to do my plyometric training, and they don't quite get that right, and they don't even get the kind of landings right, and it can then cause an injury sort of down the line anyway. But yeah, so people do. It's one of those things that it's easy to see online, but actually knowing how to plan it in a program is a very different story.
Yeah. So this is where I always say to people, like, if you see something that I do or I post online and you think it's going to be useful and you want to try it, speak to me about it.
Mhm.
Don't just randomly. Well, I mean, you can randomly try it and play around with it, but if you
Yeah,
want to know how to do it effectively, like, let's come and have a conversation.
yeah, definitely.
I think with regards to plyometrics, where would you recommend somebody starts in terms of general simplicity and wanting to be more explosive? Like obviously we've spoken about the benefits of sprinting. I think surely that's going to be number one. And then
Yeah,
any of your top recommendations with regards to training.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one thing a lot of people do. They miss out. The first one they want to miss is the sprint training, and it's like, oh, well, I've done. I've given my clients a program of 3 day a week where they've got sprints, they've got some lower, and they've got some upper, and so maybe some core work in there. For example, it's not always kind of that structured, but often I'll see the first one done and prioritizes upper, and the next one's lower, and the last one's sprint. As I say to them, well, what are your goals right now? Because if your goals are football performance and speed, I'd probably say get the sprints in first, prioritize that. And when it comes to plyometrics, for me, like the first, it's just the basics. Get the basics right first. Even just a standard squat jump, more maybe extensive plyometrics and hops and things like that to start with before you start chucking in your depth jumps and your advanced stuff. And you see it on Instagram and being like, try this method, like the French contrast method, for example, which I really like, but it's like, try this to become so explosive. And this person hasn't done any basic strength training or plyometrics, and yet all of a sudden they're asking to someone's suggesting do the French contrast method. So for me, it's just the basics. And one thing that I get with a lot of my clients to do is single leg stuff. Being obviously a footballer, most of the things you do are singular leg and unilateral. So working out, is there a massive imbalance between that left and right leg, and some single leg jumps to start, and start working out if you are really pushing off one leg more than the other, trying to work that out and get that a bit more even before you start going to your more advanced moves.
Yeah, I generally I think one of my basic rules, if someone asks me about plyometric training, I'm like, how many times a week are you sprinting?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not sprinting, let's say twice a week, and then including your actual sport specific training sessions,
Yeah,
you don't really need to go fancier than that. Like,
no,
you're better off spending your time in the gym recovering and focusing on adding in the sprint training first, because that's probably the most effective, specific, relevant activity you could actually perform in
yeah,
terms of, improving leg strength, speed. Like, it's a foundational activity. Do that. Be good at that. Be very good at that from a young age. Be able to run fast.
yeah, definitely.
Anyway, mate, I think that has pretty much touched on everything that we wanted to touch on. So
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up there. But before we end it, can you just give people an idea where to go, where to get in touch with you? If you have got any questions regarding football training, specific stuff, or anything that we've mentioned today, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Your Peak Performance _ at the end, unfortunately, because somebody took the original Your Peak Performance. On Twitter as well. So Twitter is YP Performance. Not as active on my Twitter, but yeah, you can find me on there. And yeah, just anyone can ever reach out. I'm always happy to help and advise. I love working with clients. I love seeing people progress. If anyone's out there serious and wants to put in work to better themselves, no matter what level, then I'm always about here. And I'm always happy to help. And if there's any questions, there's no pressure. Just drop me a message, and I'll help as much as I kind of can. Sometimes it's harder because questions are like, what do I do to get this and that, and it is such a bigger picture to it. But yeah, my coaching, my one-to-one online coaching branches out to anyone in the world. I do have clients that, are in Abu Dhabi. I have a Swedish guy. So, it doesn't matter where you are, can help you wherever. And yeah, as I say, we were speaking about it earlier in the chat. Just for me, it's something I wish I did when I was younger and I understood the process. It's an investment in yourself, which, if you invest in yourself and you apply yourself, it's one that's never going to lose. Like, it's one that you're going to feel better in yourself. You're gonna reap the rewards, and you're going to feel greater than you ever have, and hopefully play football to your potential for as long as you can. And I know sometimes people think, do I need the coach, as we discussed, and it's money wise. And I always like kind of like ask people to look at what they're spending their money on. Are you spending 30 quid a week on maybe like takeaway bets or a coffee a day? Another thing as well is, I didn't really mention it earlier, but what are people earning from football? Like, some guys I have earned completely nothing. Some guys are earning 30 quid a week. And ask yourself, I think, if you're earning £30 a week at the level you're playing without doing the right things and without the extra speed, fitness, strength that you could have on the pitch, if you did invest in yourself, in a coach, someone that can get you to a higher level of that, then what can you earn then? And that money comes back to you, hopefully, in a lot greater amount. And I've had it many a times. Listen, like, not everyone gets success stories, unfortunately, because it doesn't always. They can't follow what you're asking them to do for whatever reasons. But the ones that do it, I've seen some guys go from, your 20 quid a week to your hundreds. I've seen the hundreds go to thousands and, pro contracts. So it's one of those things that, yes, you might be paying out a bit at first to get the advice from a coach, but in the long run, if you apply yourself, I have no doubt that you'll get that back, hopefully money wise, but if not, you'll get that in a sense of achievement from what you've worked towards.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's one of those things that pays dividends, and it is like, it's a cliche, isn't it, to say that working on your health and fitness is an investment in you, but
Yeah,
100% absolutely is. And then if you're an athlete, I would say you're in the position where you can't afford not to. Like there's so much riding on it. If you've got the potential to go further and aspirations to play at a higher level,
yeah,
don't waste
exactly.
your time. You've got a
No,
really good career span.
no.
But
These semi-pro guys, it doesn't take a lot. And the game's becoming much more athletic. And sometimes if you're just quicker and stronger than everybody else and fitter, and you cover the distance, you can jump leagues up.
yeah,
And it's just getting yourself into the position to be able to do that, which you've got. Most people have the ability to. They put the work in correctly.
yeah, that's it. I absolutely agree. Anyway, there's been absolutely tons of useful stuff in there, mate. So
Yeah,
thank
I've enjoyed
you
it.
so
It's
much for
been
coming
really
on. It's
good.
been absolute class.
No, I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been really enjoyable.
And there we have it. That concludes episode number 92 with Ben Bacon from Your Peak Performance, where we've spoken about like so many different things, loads of useful tips in there from Ben, from nutrition, recovery, the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to like distance running, sprinting, training splits, match day preparations. Then we've got the importance of investing in yourself, as we were touching on again at the end there. Um, Useful role models to follow, the importance of having that low body fat and improving that power to weight ratio. And essentially, like if you wanted to go and lose 10 pounds right now to improve your performance over the rest of the season, as we're coming into the business end, it always is the business end of the season around March, April, May. It is perfectly achievable. And there are tips in that episode of how to do it. So if you're struggling or you want to know any more about that, feel free to speak to myself. Feel free to speak to Ben. Go and check out his Instagram and his Twitter if you aren't already following him. Drop him a follow. And likewise, please like, share, subscribe to this podcast, because we'll be doing more and more of this every single week. This is going to be non-stop. So it is a pleasure to have you along for the ride. Look forward to it again in the future. I will be back again soon. That is it from me. Lenko out.